everyone. I'd like to give a warm welcome to all of you out there. My name is Renee, and you're watching Renee's Health Corner. Believe it or not, God really does care about your health. In 2022, just about everywhere you look, sickness and disease are on the rise. In America, 4,000 times a day, someone has a heart attack, a new diabetic is discovered. Every 50 seconds, and 1 out of 4 people have cancer. That's 25% of the American population. There's also a rise in the number of strokes per year, gastrointestinal problems, arthritic conditions, lung conditions, lupus, multiple sclerosis, and a host of many other diseases. The question is, why? Well, many people believe that God is to blame. Is this the case? No. In 3 John 2, it says that the Lord wants us to prosper and to be in health. So if he wants us to be in health and disease is more rampant than ever before, then what's the problem? Well, I want to bring something to your mind for just a moment, something that many of us have learned in our lives at some point growing up, and that is, in the world, there are many different types of laws. We have civil law, natural law, the law of physics, sanitary laws, the law of gravity, etc. Now let's take the law of gravity, for example. It's a well-known fact that in most cases what goes up must come down, right? Well, there's also other laws known as natural laws. And when these laws are neglected in any way, the result is sickness and even death and disease. And over a period of time, neglecting these natural laws, more severe diseases even set in, like cancer. And so we want to be careful and obey and observe those laws, right? So remember too, all the information I'm going to share with you today is supported by the Bible, the spirit of prophecy, medical research, and or medical science. So I'm not going to be asking you to buy any quick fix elixirs or take any pills or anything crazy like that. I just ask that you have a listening ear and a sharing spirit so that what you learn and hear, you can pass on and maybe help somebody else someday. So on this video today, I'm going to be speaking about 3 different things. I'm going to be talking about using baking soda and baking powder, spices, and food coloring. Now in the Bible, we're told in Isaiah 55:2 to eat that which is good. And the word good here means that which is best. So that also means beneficial. So according to the Bible, God wants us to eat the foods that are best for our health and healing. And he wants us to eat foods that promote health and healing. But before getting into today's subjects, I want to share a couple powerful quotes with you. One's from the Bible and one's from the Spirit of Prophecy. And these quotes are as follows. In Psalms 103 verses 4 through 5, it says, "Who redeemeth thy life from destruction? Who satisfieth thy mouth with good things?" And then the Ministry of Healing from Spirit of Prophecy, page 128, paragraph 1 says, "Too little attention is generally given to the preservation of health. It is far better to prevent disease than to know how to treat it when contracted. It is the duty of every person, for his own sake and for the sake of humanity, to inform himself in regard to the laws of life and conscientiously to obey them." We're also told in Counsels on Diet and Foods that education should be given on proper diet and that disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. That's Ministry of Healing, page 127. And we're also told in 11 manuscript release to become more intelligent in regard to the laws of life, page 187. So why should we educate people and become more intelligent? So that they know how to preserve health, we're told in MM 259, paragraph 3. And then 7T says, true religion and the laws of health go hand in hand. And then Counsels on our child guidance, says we should educate ourselves not only to live in harmony with the laws of health, but to teach others a better way. And that's my goal by doing these videos, is to teach you exactly what the Spirit of Prophecy says and to help you to learn more about how to take care of your body and so that you will be in good health too. And so anyway, we're also told that disease never comes without a cause. So whenever we get a disease or a sickness, there's a cause for it. And it's something that we've done. We violated a law of health. And Ministry of Healing says disease never comes without a cause, but the way is prepared, and disease is invited by disregarding the laws of health. So there we have it, right straight from the mouth of the Lord. Now, also in the Bible, in Proverbs 26, verse 2 says, the curse causeless shall not come. In other words, there's a reason. And Job 29:16 says, the cause which I knew not, I searched out. So when you get sick, you have to ask yourself, which law of health did I violate? Go through the laws of health and say, did I drink enough water? Did I go to bed early? Did I exercise? Did I go outside and get my sunshine? Did I eat properly, etc.? And usually you can figure out what you've done wrong. And then we're told in Ministry of Healing, when the abuse of health is carried so far that sickness results, the sufferer can often do for himself what no one else can do for him. So the first thing to be done is to ascertain the true character of the sickness and then go to work to intelligently remove the disease. So how do you ascertain it? Well, by doing what I just said, going through the laws of health and asking yourself if you've obeyed them, and if not, then correct it. And then we're told in Counsels on Diet and Foods that be sure as a rational Christian, sentinel, you guard the door of your stomach, allowing nothing to pass your lips that will be an enemy to your health and life. So if you know something isn't good, don't do it. Our food should be plain and free from all objectionable elements, but let us be careful that it's always palatable and good. LLM 545, paragraph 3. And then we bear positive testimony against all exciting substances used as articles of food. Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 468. And 9T, page 113 says, abstinence from all hurtful food and drink is the fruit of true religion. And then one more quote, Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 198 says, the idea should never be given that it is but little consequence what we eat. Now, we're going to be talking about, like I said, a baking powder, baking soda, and I'm going to start with those two. Now, we're told in the Spirit of Prophecy, the use of soda or baking powder in bread making is harmful and unnecessary. Soda causes inflammation of the stomach and often poisons the entire system. That's Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 316. Then we're told that in Counsels on Diet and Foods, hot biscuits raised with soda or baking powder should never appear on your tables. Such compounds are unfit to enter the human stomach. Did you hear that? It's unfit to enter our stomach. Continue with the quote, we are much disappointed when they appear raised with baking powder or baking soda. These give no evidence of reform. And then again, same book, page 343, some plead, I cannot make good bread or jams unless I use Saleratus, or that's another word for baking soda. You surely can if you become a scholar and will learn. Is not the health of your family of sufficient value to inspire you with ambition to learn how to cook and eat? And then we're told Saleratus in any form should not be introduced into the stomach, for the effect is fearful. It eats the coatings of the stomach, causes inflammation, and frequently poisons the entire system. That's Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 343. Now, what is Saleratus? Well, it's sodium bicarbonate, or sometimes called potassium bicarbonate. And that's the main ingredient of baking powder. In other words, it's baking soda. Calcium bicarbonate is the ingredient that's found in baking soda. Now, whether it says carbonate or bicarbonate, according to a chemist, they're both poisons. This includes Rumford, aluminum-free baking powder, Featherweight, Energy, all of them. None of them are any good. Now, some don't feel it's a religious duty to prepare food properly, and so they don't even try to learn how. But Counsels on Health on page 117 says, they let the bread sour before baking, and the Saleratus added to remedy the cook's carelessness makes it totally unfit for the human stomach. We need to learn how to cook, and we need to learn how to cook properly, and according to God's way, not our way. I know we've all probably been raised to eat things and how to cook certain things a certain way, but we have to change that. Now, one testimony is page 680 says, during the last 7 months, we've been at home about 4 weeks. Sister White is talking. In our travels, we have had sat at many different tables from Iowa all the way to Maine, and some who we visited live up to the best light that they have. See, many people don't know. Others who have had the same opportunities of learning to live healthfully have hardly even taken the first steps in reform. They'll tell you they don't know how to cook in this new way, but they are without excuse in this matter of cooking. For in the work, How to Live, which is the first health book that Sister White came out with, are many excellent recipes, and this work is within the reach of all. I do not say that system of cookery taught in that book is perfect. I may soon furnish a small work more to my mind in some respects, but How to Live teaches cookery almost infinitely in advance of what the traveler will often meet, even among some Seventh-day Adventists. Now, that book is not perfect. There is things in there that are not right, but like I said, that was the first health book that came out, and unfortunately, Sister White never did write that book that she talked about that she might do someday. I wish she had. I'd love to read it. Now, mind you, things in that book, again, there's like eggs and cream and milk and some of those things, and some of the, things that aren't healthy are in there. But the principles in that book are for us. You can see that baking soda and baking powder were not used in that book for making bread or any other food. Now, did you know that baking soda kills B vitamins in your body? The stomach's job is to produce acid for the digestion of food. When alkali substances such as baking powder or baking soda are ingested, the stomach has to work twice as hard to achieve the same level of acidity. And so you'll find things like baking soda and baking powder in cakes and cookies and crackers and biscuits and all kinds of things. They even put it in pure water. You have to read your labels. I was listening to a video last night about water, and it was fascinating. A lot of it I knew, but some of the things that the speaker was talking about was, that they do put baking soda in water. And I've discovered that several years back when I started, was traveling somewhere and was trying to buy water and looked at the label, and here they have sodium bicarbonate in it. It's like, what do you have to put that in water for? That's not necessary. Now, I personally know a Seventh-day Adventist doctor, and I went to church with him several years when we lived in another state, and he looked up in his medical book about baking soda, and this is what he found. Baking soda power intake is associated, baking soda and powder, not power, intake is associated with 190% increase in stomach cancer. A cancer often the result from increased stomach acidity, irritation, and inflammation. Did you hear that? That is powerful. So there again, science is right in line with what God told the prophet and the prophet told us. And so we just have to know that we have to trust God and what he says and do what he says, and we'll be healthy. Now, that's enough about that. Now I'm going to talk to you about spices. So what is a spice? Well, in many cases, a spice is a dried seed, and many times commonly mistaken as a fruit, a root, a bark, or a vegetative substance used in nutritionally insignificant quantities as a food additive for flavor, color, or preservatives. And it can also be used to hide flavors. Now, Rodale's Ultimate Encyclopedia of Organic Gardening in 2009 gives readers the following rules of thumb for telling spices and herbs apart. And here's what it says, and I'm going to quote it directly. Herbs more frequently grow in temperate regions, while spices come from the tropics. Herbs are green and often have more subtle tastes. Spices tend to be shades of black, brown, or red with dramatic, pungent flavor. Now, although they may produce a spicy taste, roots are not spices. Turmeric and ginger are roots, and they are not a spice. Garlic is a root. It is not a spice. Many mistakenly call it. It is really an herb. Spices are mostly from seeds, which will be listed later. I'll tell you about that later. It's the seeds of your hot peppers that give off the hot, spicy flavor. And we're told in SA, page 65, our food should be prepared free from spices. Why? Well, a plain diet free from spices would prove a blessing to you. CD, page 83 says. Back to SA again, spices create that feverish condition in the system and inflame the animal passions. That's page 65. Then we're told in the pioneer writings too, what Sister White did endorse, and we're told that black pepper, allspice, cinnamon, cloves, mace, and nutmeg, of all these, the best psychological rule to adopt in regard to their use is the less the better. So even the pioneers were saying, don't use them. They're saying use less, but we don't need to use any at all. Now, science has found that spices like nutmeg and cinnamon and all those I mentioned, allspice, they are similar, or other similar spices like them. They actually enhance the animal nature in humans. And they found most of the sexual predators eat a diet very high in spices. And when these are removed from their diet, the animal-like propensities tend to go away. Now, there's probably other underlying reasons as well, but this is one of them. Now, here's the truth about spices. They do not help in digestion. Many people think they aid in digestion. That is false. Now, we're told condiments and spices used in the preparation of food for the table aid in the digestion the same way that tea, coffee, and liquor are supposed to help the laboring man perform his task. After the immediate effects are gone, they drop as correspondingly below par as they were elevated above par by these stimulating substances. Now, spices can cause many problems, and I'm going to read some of them to you. They arouse animal propensities, CD 236 and 341. The blood is fevered, CH 114 and CD 236. The blood is made impure, MH 325. Blood-making organs cannot convert into good blood, CD 220 and 345. Children's appetites are depraved from using them, CD 239 and CG 381. It corrupts the blood, Temperance, page 57. Destroys the health, 2T 367. Natural sensitiveness of the stomach's tender coating, Councils on Health, 114, CD 236 and 341. It affects the liver. 2T67, excites the nervous system unduly, 4T141. Feverish state of the system is caused by its use, CD340. Condition of the stomach is irritated by fiery spices, CD235 to 236. It irritates the stomach, CD340. It paves the way for smoking by children, CD236 and Temperance 182. Blood-making organs cannot convert into good blood, CH114. Corrupts the blood, Temperance 57. Deranges the stomach, CH114, CD236 and 354. Encourages the appetite for intoxicating liquor. I forgot the reference for that one, I'm sorry, but you can look it up. Enfeebles the intellect, CH114, CD 368 to 369. Excites the nerves, CH114, CD 236 to 354. Inflames the stomach, CD 340. Impatience induced by Temperance 57. Lack of self-control induced by Temperance 57. And again, remember what 1 Corinthians 9:25 tells us. You can look that up. It also leaves the stomach weak, MM229, weakens your moral and intellectual powers, CH114. Pregnant women especially should not use spices, 2T382. And fruit dishes like pumpkin pie, apple crisp, and cobblers should be made free from irritating spices, 2T486. I made a peach crisp not too long ago, maybe about a month ago, I don't remember, but I make my own cinnamon by combining coriander and cardamom, and I do 4-to-1. Some people do 3-to-1, some do 2-to-1, but it's however strong you like it. But it's very delicious, and most people can't tell the difference. Now, here's a powerful quote. When I was homeschooling my daughter, she read this in her health book, which was just so amazing. She had to come run and tell me, Mom, look at this quote. And I was like, what? And here it is from Councils on Diet and Foods. You have perhaps seen a picture of the stomach of one who is addicted to a strong drink. A similar condition is produced under the irritating influence of fiery spices. Wow, you hear that? So those spices do to your stomach the same thing alcohol does. That is powerful. So what are some of these irritating spices? Well, I mentioned a few of them earlier in a quote, but here's a list of some of them, the most popular ones anyway. Allspice, black pepper, cayenne pepper, chili pepper, chili powder, cinnamon, cloves, cream of tartar, habanero peppers, jalapeno peppers, mace, nutmeg, white pepper, and other hot peppers. Now, when I say black pepper, I did say white pepper, so both white and black. Anyway, cayenne pepper, though, is very good for medicinal things, but it's not good to take on a regular. So that one we can use medicinally. Now, we're told in Temperance, page 157, every mother should carefully guard her table and allow nothing to come upon it which will have the slightest tendency to lay the foundation of intemperate habits. Food should be prepared in as simple a manner as possible, free from condiments and spices, and even from an undue amount of salt. Now, she's not saying salt is bad, because there's other quotes where she says we need salt, but you don't want to overdo the salt and use tons of it. Now, this quote is from Counsel on Diet and Foods, page 400, says, there are those among Seventh-day Adventists who will not heed the light given them in regard to this matter. They make blank a part of their diet. Disease comes upon them, sick and suffering as a result of their own wrong course. They ask for the prayers of the servants of God. But how can the Lord work in their behalf when they are not willing to do his will, when they refuse to heed his instruction in regard to health reform? Another powerful quote. Wow. And then, again, continuing on, same book, for 30 years, the light of health reform has been coming to the people of God, but many have made it a subject of jest. They have continued to use tea, coffee, spices, and flesh meat. Their bodies are full of disease. How can we, I ask, present such ones to the Lord for healing? Now, moral and intellectual powers are weakened by using these spices, so when people use those things, I guess, if intellectually, they just can't see it because their intellectual powers are weakened. So anyway, here's another quote. Mustard, peppers, spices, pickles, and other things of like character irritate the stomach and make the blood feverish and impure. The inflamed condition of the drunkard's stomach is often pictured as illustrating the effect of alcoholic liquors. And a similarly inflamed condition is produced by the use of these irritating condiments. Soon, ordinary food doesn't satisfy the appetite. The system feels a want, a craving for something more stimulating. And I know that's true because I personally know people who use these hot, fiery spices, and then pretty soon it's like they don't even taste it, and they want something hotter and hotter and hotter. And they're just using these things continually, and they just think it's, it tastes like nothing. And I can tell if there's one tiny little black speck of black pepper in something because immediately it burns my mouth. I can't stand it. But there was a time when my dad used to tease me many, many years ago, and he would say, have a little mashed potatoes with your black pepper. So I know using those things, I was addicted to it, and I praise God I got off of it. Now, when you have a perverted taste, it causes a craving for things like clay, slate pencils, burnt coffee, tea grounds, cinnamon, cloves, and even chalk. Look in Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 239. In fact, I had somebody that I knew whose sister would do that. She would chew on pencils and crave like clay and dirt and stuff like that. I was like, wow, she needs help. That was sad. Now, spices are not good for children, we're told in Counsel on Diet and Foods, page 235. Pregnant women, page 220. Those with diseased livers, 2T66. And those trying to quit tobacco, alcohol, and other stimulants because it just makes them want them all the more. CD, page 340. Then we're told nothing should be taken to camp meeting except the most healthful articles cooked in a simple manner, free from all spices and grease. 2T601. Now, as I said earlier, ginger's not a spice, it's a root. And here's the quote from Sister White. It says, 15 MR, in regard to our using spice, I plead not guilty. Some people say don't use ginger, it's not allowed. That's false. Continuing, we have not had spice in our house for 10 years, except a little ginger. which we have always used to some extent. So here she's telling you it's okay to use ginger. Turmeric as well, that's a root. Some people say don't use that. That's false. Turmeric is very good for you. And then anise is a herb of the garden. The Pharisees were very exact in tithing garden herbs such as mint. I call it anise, some say anise, and rue. Desire of Ages, page 617. Now back to cayenne. I told you we could use it medicinally. Well, tea, coffee, and tobacco, mustard, cayenne, black pepper, allspice, cinnamon, cloves, mace, nutmeg, ginger. We're told to leave those alone. So, but if you use it medicinally, it's okay, because let's say someone's having a heart attack. Well, if you give them cayenne pepper, it can stop the heart attack in its tracks. So would you rather have them dead or give them a little cayenne? I'd rather, use the cayenne. And so what you can do, if the person collapses or they stop breathing, you can give several dropperfuls of cayenne pepper tincture in the person's mouth. Just put it in the side of their mouth. And if you don't have that, you can even use the powder and just pry their mouth open and get it in there. But and then perform compressions on their chest, performing CPR, of course, as well. And, of course, first call 911 and wait for them to come. But in the meantime, you can do this to help save their life. And you can just try to get a pinch under their tongue. I forgot to say that part. If they're having chest pains, and do it every 5 minutes. And until the pain stops, three rounds. You can do it 3 times every 5 minutes. So in 15 minutes, you have done it 3 times. And like I said, of course, be sure and call 911. Now, if someone drops and they're unconscious, they may be going through cardiac arrest. So that's when the dropperful would come in handy, because then that'll just drip down their throat. But you have to make sure it's like 90 heat units. It has to be strong. The stuff you get in the store is only about 50, maybe 60. But you want the 90 heat units of cayenne. That's the medicinal one. So if anyone has an addiction to any of these ingredients, what can they do? Well, Sister White had an addiction to vinegar. Did you know that? And when she did that, she said she was very sick, but she kept saying over and over that the Lord knows all about it. And she said, if I die, I die, but I will not yield to this desire. And the struggle continued, and she was sorely afflicted for many weeks, and she thought it was impossible for her to live. And so she says, you can be sure we sought out the Lord very earnestly. The most fervent prayers were offered for my recovery, and I continued to resist the desire for vinegar, and at last I conquered. Amen. Praise the Lord. Now I have no inclination to taste anything of the kind. This experience has been of great value to me in many ways, and I obtained a complete victory. And you can read all about that in Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 485. And then she says, I relate this experience to you for your help. And so she wants people to know about this. Excuse me, I lost my place here. She related this experience for your help and encouragement, to help us, in other words, to help us. And she said that she has faith. She says, I have faith, my sister, that you can come through this trial. So she was talking to another sister going through a trial, similar one, I'm assuming, and revealed that God is the helper of his children in every time of need. And if you determine to conquer this habit and will fight it perseveringly, you can obtain an experience of the highest value. When you set your will resolutely to break off this indulgence, you will have the help you need from God. Try it, my sister. Isn't that wonderful? Now, here's some substitutions. If the recipe calls for black pepper, you can use the seeds from a papaya. You can even buy papaya seed powder, which is what I did, because I don't always have papaya on hand, and then you have to dry out the seeds and grind them up. So just go to Amazon or wherever and look for it. And I just have, I bought organic papaya seed powder and use the black seeds that they grind up and use that in place of pepper. And be sure it's organic, though, because papayas are GMO. Instead of cayenne pepper, use paprika. Instead of cinnamon, I already told you, combine cardamom and coriander. And instead of cloves, you can use coriander and mustard. I think I gave a recipe last week on mustard. You can just make that mustard recipe. And instead of nutmeg, you use cardamom. Now, there's some books on spices and some links that I will provide below for you to look at and do some more reading on. Now, quickly on food coloring. Medical science says The consumption of food coloring is related to many diseases such as abdominal pain, ADD, ADHD, allergies, asthma, bladder tumors, brain tumors, breathing difficulties, cancers, chest heaviness, chromosomal damage, dermatitis, distaste for food, genetic damage, hives, hyperactivity, immune problems, kidney problems, nervous system malfunctioning, rashes, seizures, sterilization, thyroid tumors, and much more. And food coloring is found in many, many, many places like alcohol, breath mints, cake mixes, cakes, candy, all kinds of candies, the sprinkles that go on cupcakes and on cookies, and canned fruit, canned meats, canned soups, Capri Sun drinks, chips like hot fries and Doritos and all kinds of chips and cookie doughs and cream cheeses and desserts and donuts and fast foods and food flavorings and frostings and fruit roll-ups and fruit snacks and gums and hard candies and high C and ice cream and jam and jellies and Kool-Aid and licorice and maraschino cherries and meat and pies and Pop-Tarts and punch and regular candy and soda and some juices and syrups to make ices and syrups to make snow cones and toothpaste and veggie meats and wine, which hopefully none of you are drinking that either, yogurt, and much, much more. You can see there's a whole list of them. And so anyway, a reform in eating would be a saving of expense and labor, we're told in Counsel on Diet and Foods, page 84. And 4T says, to bear the cross of Christ is to control our sinful passions. That's 4T627. Natural food coloring can be found in health food stores nationwide. I bought some on Amazon. I got blue and yellow and red and green. And you can even make your own, and there's going to be a link below how to do that. And you can make things red by using beets, the beet juice, the yellow by turmeric. In fact, I use turmeric in my scrambled tofu and make it yellow so it looks like, scrambled eggs. Blue is blueberries, and green you can use the spinach. And just keep in mind, for everything that God has, Satan has a counterfeit, and his counterfeit is not good. So again, if someone has an addiction to any of those ingredients, food colorings, the same thing that we talked about with the vinegar addiction, they can apply the same terms. So there'll be links below too to learn about food coloring and to read more of the effects of food coloring on your health, and some books you can read if you'd like to order a book. And another book that I highly recommend is a book called Health Power, which is by Dr. Hans Dio, who is known for the CHIP program. He's a Seventh-day Adventist doctor, and his books have had over 2 million copies in 17 different languages. And the book Health Power covers this subject that I talked about today, and some other topics I've talked about and we'll talk about in the future. And you can look for it on Amazon or wherever and find that book if you're interested in ordering it. It also includes the natural laws that I've talked about. And anyway, it's an amazing book. I have it. I love it. Well, that's our time for today. I hope that what you've learned on here will be a blessing to you and your family. And until we meet again, may the good Lord bless and keep you throughout this day and the rest of the new week ahead. And remember, God loves you and he wants you to be in health. So eat that which is good. God bless. Bye-bye.